Here we are at Senate House. This is the heart of Cambridge University. And it was here in 1948 that the first woman was given a degree by the university. It went to the Queen Mother. Now that was a historic day. It was a day of massive celebration, but it was also a bittersweet day. And to understand why, we're going to go back to 1869. This modest doorway is where the story of women's struggle for education at the University of Cambridge begins. It's the front door of Girton College, founded 150 years ago, the first women's college. I'm here with historian Ben Griffin. We're co-curating the exhibition at the University Library, The Rising Tide Women at Cambridge, and we've been looking at the history of women's education at Cambridge University. Ben, what did the foundation of Girton in 1869 mean for women's education?
It was a major milestone. Until Girton was founded in 1869, there was nowhere in the country that women could study to receive the same university education as was available to men.
It was still quite an uphill struggle though, wasn't it, for women who were studying here?
They had no right to attend lectures. They had to apply for special permission from the lecturers. They had no right to use the library facilities or the laboratories. There's an enormous petition in 1880 demanding women get degrees, but the university didn't offer women degrees. The university considered the memorial and then decided that actually all it would offer women was the right to sit exams. But from that point on, women were sitting the same exams as the men, and you could compare women's achievement to men's achievement. And that's a really important feminist milestone, because as soon as you start doing that, you could establish that women were outperforming the men in many respects.
And Cambridge was starting to look out of sync with other institutions. That led to the pressure building. So in 1896, 1,234 Newnham and Girton students petitioned the university for full membership, and that led to a Senate House vote.
This is where the university takes votes on matters of policy, but it's also where students come to graduate. Conferring degrees would allow women a say in the running of the university, and for many men that was a red line.
That would have brought women right into this place to have their voices heard in here in Senate House.
Absolutely, and that was a step too far for many.
It's 1897, the vote is taking place inside. What's going on out here?
The streets were absolutely packed, not just with academics, but with all the former students who'd come back to vote. For weeks past, the university town had been plastered with posters, drawing attention to the fact that the vote was taking place, whipping up public interest. And so, as the crowd gathered out here, students from King's College there began pelting the crowds below with confetti and eggshells. As the vote was taking place itself, fireworks were lobbed at the dons who were voting.
There was a very famous effigy of a woman on a bicycle with flaming red hair hanging out of the window.
The stereotypical Girton girl. The students had clearly been planning this weeks ahead of time and had made this effigy to mock the women students in the university.
Then, after the result was announced, what happened then?
The students cheered and began lobbing fireworks, and the whole thing descended into a riot. The male undergraduates en masse decided to march on the nearest women's college, which was Newnham. The female staff stood in front of these gates and prevailed on the gentlemanly feeling of the crowd to leave them alone. And it worked. The crowd turned around and headed back to town, where they began tearing the doors and shutters off the local shops to build a bonfire in the middle of the square. And the students tried to stop them, but the fire brigade turned the hoses on the students. It's a real act of symbolic intimidation of women right here in the centre of Cambridge. And it wasn't the last time that the students would riot when women's claims were defeated. We're back at Senate House, where there was the second vote that the university took on whether or not to give women degrees. Why did the university resurrect the issue after such a long gap?
Things had really changed by 1920. There'd been a world war, women had participated enthusiastically in war work, some women had been enfranchised at the national level in 1918. It seemed like a good moment to revisit that debate, and crucially, Oxford had admitted women to full degrees in 1920, so that seemed like the real game changer.
And what was the result?
Well, they actually did it twice, in 1920 and 1921, and in both cases, a resounding defeat. In 1921, the vote had gone against women again, and the men marched down here again.
This time they wouldn't be dissuaded. They used a handcart to smash these beautiful gates. They are the memorial to the first principal of the college. One of its founders, Anne Jemima Clough, was disrespecting the memory of the women who'd fought so hard to bring women to the university. Profoundly shocking to women who had to confront the fact that so many men felt so violently that women shouldn't have a place in the university.
What a moment in university history. It was a very dark day for the women's movement when the vote went against in 1920 and 21. They were given the right to attend lectures, to go into the science labs, to borrow books from the university library. And in 1926, you see the first university lecturers appointed, the first female university lecturers.
22 years before the university granted women degrees.
Yeah, it must have felt like such an anomaly. And women continued to work here, to thrive here. But I do think that those years saw the big turnaround in attitudes.